Dexy, not so sexy to my New York Football Giants. What the heck is going on in the NFL draft?
Let's go! It's time for the talk to you. 'Cause when it comes to sport, it's always coming to. If all green is always on the sea, it was gonna always bring to life again. So get ready, ready. Get ready, 'cause here they come.
All right, welcome aboard, everybody. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. What I was about to say there, Boy Green, before you played that music over me, was the NFL draft just a little more than a week away. What are we, 8 days now?
8 days, yeah.
8 days. That's all I was doing. All right, welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It is our Wednesday live show. Again, you know the handle, at MC Show Digital on YouTube. If you're not already a subscriber, please click the subscribe button and become part of our growing family. And as you're joining the video, click the old thumbs up if you like what you're hearing. And you will, because we're bringing in our NFL Insider today. He always gives us lots of insight on the NFL. We are presented today by our friends at Northeast Roofing Professionals. Today's video brought to you by the Allen Floral Group and one of their shops, the Floral Gardens. And we'll have a little bit more from them in just a little bit. But let's bring in our guy from between the hash marks on Substack. It's the one, the only Mr. Matt Lombardo, our NFL Insider. How are you, Matt?
Manchild Boy Green, how's it going today?
Great. Loving the veranda again today.
Yeah,
outdoors again. I was telling Boy Green, I've been having some ceilings painted around here. You got a little work going on around the house, but I think I like the new vibe. I mean, I think you ought to just hang out there for a while.
Yeah, you know what? When it gets to be this time of year, this basically becomes the home office. You get the cold brew coffee, you get the laptop, you get the nice fresh air. You're out of the home office. It's a beautiful thing this time of year, and figured I would share some of the vibes and the ambiance with two of my favorite NFL podcasters. So let's get rolling. Let's get to it.
Well, the Giants can use those vibes because, yikes, it has evolved. So, folks, all right, I'm going to play detective here. I'm going to go to Exhibit A, Exhibit B, some Exhibit C action to see what the hell's going on. Because last week, Matt, we're like, here's some possible destinations. And Lurch was like, hey, he's not getting moved, but we can talk about it. And we're going through it, and it seemed very nice. Well, things have escalated quickly, as one anchorman once said. Let's go through them. Exhibit A, last night, as Manchild was already probably asleep. The New York Giants and star defensive lineman Dexter Lawrence, who had been talking about a new big money extension, have reached, quote, an impasse. And the Giants have engaged with teams on a potential trade, and that will continue. It should come to a head before the draft, saying, oh boy, is a trade possible here? Is that going to happen over the next week? And now we've got to a much darker place on the local front. Pat Leonard says the Giants and Dexter Lawrence are not just at an impasse. The situation is more dire than that. The contract negotiations between the team and Lawrence's camp have, quote, broken off. Sources tell the Daily News. The Giants have been speaking to teams about possible trades for the star defensive tackle, and there is, quote unquote, significant interest in acquiring him. And the last bullet point I'll throw up here is from Connor Hughes of SNY, who does both local and national. He reported that many teams are interested, confirmed that report from Pat Leonard, and said a first-round pick is the expected return value. So that's a lot to unpack, Matt Lombardo, but you've been on top of the story. What the heck? Oh, Lurch, please.
Before Matt speaks, I just want to jump in on one thing. I want to just go back just let 12 hours earlier, if even less. Joe Shane, had his pre-draft presser. I watched it all live, and Shane basically said in that presser before all this broke, hey, we're having really productive talks, and things are going well and swimmingly, and we've talked like 4 of the last 5 days, and, we're cautiously optimistic. He didn't use those words, but that's what I kind of felt out of it. And then all this, bang, 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 drop. So, Matt, I mean, is this irreparable? Where's this going? My goodness, I can't believe it's gone this far this quick.
Yeah, this is also a great plug for Between the Hash Marks, because we were all over this story last week after Dexter Lawrence first made the trade report. It really feels like things have gotten to a much darker place between the Giants and Dexter Lawrence. And now this isn't anything new. These contract talks have been ongoing for the past 2 off seasons. So this is not as if Dexter Lawrence woke up one day and said, I want a new contract. he woke up one day and said, this isn't going anywhere. We aren't getting what we want. We aren't hearing what we want to hear. And I think that the leverage is now right back in Dexter Lawrence's corner, right? Because the Giants, you're at a point now where you have the NFL draft coming up. You're picking fifth. Do you try to trade back in the NFL draft and take Caden McDonald, the nose tackle out of Ohio State? Do you try to sell Dexter Lawrence to the highest bidder to get an additional first-round pick? But it just seems like the closer that we get and the more milestones that we cross, whether it's voluntary off-season workout program, whether it's voluntary OTAs, whether it's the NFL draft, it seems with each passing deadline, these two sides aren't getting any closer. They're not getting any closer to meeting in the middle on a long-term extension. So it does really seem like there could be a trade in the offing, whether it's before the NFL draft, during the NFL draft. And I spoke to an NFL defensive line coach last week who told me that Dexter Lawrence is one of the top 5 players at the position. So that's what a team would be acquiring. And I just look to a team like the Jets. I look to a team like the Patriots. There are teams that Dexter Lawrence is going to be the best player that they're able to acquire at any point during this offseason moving forward. He's better than any defensive tackle in the NFL draft. He's better than any defensive tackle currently available in free agency. And for the Giants, it might just be time to take whatever you can get, move on, and draft his replacement sometime next week.
Birch,
a big sigh.
Yeah, because I was about to say, normally we sort of do this Q&A back and forth, but I want to make sure you get your chance to layer this conversation, because like you hear that, hey, you might as well get what you can. Like, oh, good Lord.
I just, look, there's a bunch of things that I have that are rattling through my mind, so let me kind of go through them one at a time. So we talk about leverage, and I hear what you're saying, Matt. But does Dexter really have the leverage? I mean, I guess any player can sulk, any player can sit out, but the Giants have the hammer. They have 2 years on a contract. They could make this guy sit for 2 years, okay? And if he elects not to show up, not have to pay him, okay? So I don't know. I'm not so sure that the leverage is out of the Giants' hands at this point. I mean,
how do you replace him on the field, though?
I know that. That's
you know what I'm saying? If he decides to sit out and hold out and not show up, or do what Cam Hayward has done the past couple of summers in Pittsburgh and hold in, report to training camp, and hang out inside the Quest Diagnostics Training Center and play PlayStation 5. How are you getting better? How are you helping your football team?
Yeah, and eat McDonald's, I was going to say, for Dexter.
And I just want to add this, Lurch, and I want you guys to sort of continue. Harbaugh, right? This is his first year. It's a honeymoon. You were losing your bananas, as you should have. I would have, if I was Boy Blue. But all right, I got to work on the nickname. But if I was a Giants guy, I would have been losing my crap. Like, woo, we got Harbaugh. This is the water. If you're on a boat, you're like, oh wow, this is beautiful. All of a sudden, whoa, some stormy clouds are brewing. What's happening out there? Choppy waters for the first time during Harbaugh. He doesn't want Dexter Lawrence, to Lombardo's point, pouting inside, which I would probably do if I'm Dexter, because I don't want to get fined up the wazoo with 2 years remaining on my deal. I'm showing up, but my hammy, my back. So I'm showing up. But if you're Harbaugh, do you want that circus going on where you saw it with Parsons, where he was laying on the trainer's table in the middle of preseason games? Like, that's a lot of drama, Lurch. If you're Harbaugh, you want to avoid that completely, which could go to Matt's point about the leverage of that drama he could bring to the team.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, a player always can just, lollygag, for lack of a better way of putting it, and they can shift the leverage over to themselves. But then the question is, how do other teams feel about that? Do they want to bring in a player like that? It can sometimes work against you, but most other teams, they think you're a good player. They're just forgive and forget and say, okay, now that you're not with them anymore, of course you're going to perform for us. All right, so put the McDonald's away, get off the training table, and let's go to work here, and let's be a member of said team. So I guess I kind of get that. I mean, ultimately, regardless, it always kind of feels like the players ultimately, if they really need to get leverage, can get leverage. But certainly in the early goings of this, it didn't feel like Dexter had much leverage. Let's talk about the next piece of this puzzle, Matt. If indeed this thing is not just at an impasse, but in an irreparable situation here where he just doesn't want to play for the Giants anymore, and John Harbaugh certainly as a coach, and I would think Joe Shane as a GM, and all the way up through ownership, if you have a player that doesn't want to be with you, you don't want to have them with you. I mean, it's just, you want your players to want to play in your jersey. So if that's really the case, let's talk about the value. Because to me, if the Giants don't get at least a first-round pick for Dexter Lawrence, I'll let him sit for 2 years. I don't care. Like, I'm that stubborn. I am not taking anything less than a first-round pick either this year or next year for Dexter Lawrence. You want him? He's one of the best defensive tackles in the biz. You're giving me a first-rounder, period, end of story. You're not getting a better tackle in the first round than Dexter Lawrence is right now, as you were just saying a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, I think the sirens you're hearing are the panic that's going on in East Rutherford over this whole situation, because it's not as if Dexter Lawrence is your traditional defensive tackle. He's a very specific scheme fit, right? You need to be playing a 3-4. You need to have a 3-4 defense where you need a nose tackle who's going to take up space against the run and dominate as an interior pass rusher. He's not going to be a great fit in a 4-3. You're going to need to be a team that has the cap space to pay him $24 to $26 million immediately walking in the building. He steps in, you reworking that contract, it's $26 million against the cap. Giants, while the value at any other point in the year, whether it's in February or when there are teams with an abundance of cap space and there are a handful of teams with needs, you can incite a bidding war in that case. But if it's 3 teams, if it's 4 teams, yes, it's only going to take one to trade a first-round pick. But I think it's far more likely you're looking at, maybe a pick swap from a second rounder up your second with Dexter Lawrence. I don't know that it's going to be just a straight up here's a one. It might wind up being that way because some team might be desperate enough, but it's not like you can shake a tree and incite a bidding war between 8 or 10 teams for Dexter Lawrence, because that's just not the nature.
Matt, repeat that pick swap thing, because you cut off literally while you're in the middle of saying that. I want to make sure everybody heard what you had to say. Just repeat that little piece there.
As far as the trade value, it might wind up being
a pick swap. Go pick it up right there where you talk about.
I think there could be some sort of pick swap where the Giants trade Dexter Lawrence and their second round pick, and they get the Jets' 16th pick, something in that range, where there's some sort of motivation for the other team to give up a premium asset, just because it doesn't feel like there's that many teams that can be involved in here.
All right, let's get one up here. We have a super chat that's coming in on the MC Show digital channel here, Alert. So first off, what's our modus operandi? Do you do a little video? Hell yes for our new memberships. Is there any sound?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, all right. Let's go just straight up video then. Okay, let's just go straight up video. And how about this one?
You know you need a cover sheet on your TPS reports, Richard. That ain't new, baby.
Hey, Terry.
Hey, Janice. Mother.
That may be the reaction to Lurch on this trade, but let's see it anyway. From Mac, Mahar Khalil, appreciate that. Lurch, to get a second here, let's update the raffle board here for a $5 super chat, what that means. I appreciate that while I throw this over to Matt first. Could the Jets trade, and thank you, Mahar Khalil, for this, can the Jets trade 2, so the second overall pick, for the Giants' number 5th overall pick, the Jets get Dexter Lawrence. So it's essentially a pick swap, but 2 to 5, when you look at the draft value chart, not everyone has the same value chart. That's a first-round value and some, according to that swap. Is that something that would make sense, Matt Lombardo?
I think that type of deal makes a ton of sense, especially for the Jets, right? Because the Jets get a plug-and-play, top 5 disruptive interior defensive lineman, and they're probably at number 5 still going to come away with Reuben Bain or David Bailey or maybe even Arvell Reese, depending how the board shakes out. What I don't really know is what would the Giants be moving up to number 2 to get, right? Because if you look at this draft, yeah, you might have been able to get Jeremiah Love at number 5. Sure, you might. There's a lot of noise about the Titans, but if you're taking Jeremiah Love at 2, that's fine. You're really shifting assets around. If I were the Giants, I'd be more inclined to call up and say, okay, we'll give you Dexter Lawrence and a 2 for number 16. Because at number 16, you're still going to have a pretty dominant corner on the board. You're probably still going to have a top offensive lineman on the board. You're probably going to have a wide receiver that you compare opposite of Malik Neighbors, and you could have still had your pick of the best player that you have on your board at number 5, whether it's Jeremiah Love or Caleb Downs. I think this trade makes a ton of sense, but I like it more from the Jets' perspective than I do the Giants, because I don't see in this draft that much of a difference in talent that fits their needs going from 5 to 2. If you didn't have Abdul Carter and Brian Burns, hell yeah, you make that move, right? Because you're going to be able to draft Orville Reese or Ruben Bain or David Bailey or any of these guys. It just doesn't seem like there's the impetus for the Giants to move up to 2. Maybe I'm wrong.
Lurch, I have a take on this trade, but I want to hear yours because it's getting floated to you. Would you trade up? So essentially, you're going from 5 to 2, but you have to give up Dexter Lawrence. But now you have the number 2 overall pick. Would you be interested in this trade?
No, I would not.
Okay, great. Because we want to I'll tell you, Mac, which I appreciate the super chat and the conversation and people who can send it on. I have zero interest in this. Hell no. I wouldn't want to move from 2 to 5. Now, again, there's players I like at 2 that I still think I could get at 5, but Dexter Lawrence is again, I just don't know if it matches up. 28, he's going to be 29 during the season. He wants crazy money, and good for him. I'm not blaming him for wanting the money. He should get a pay raise, and I think that's at the heart of the issue with the Giants is that
I think the Giants want to give him a raise. Just want to give him a crazy raise. That's all.
Well, I think what the Giants need to do is find in everything in our lives, there's compromise. There's a line that we can all get to. I'm over here, you're over here. But what's the truth right here? There is a number that I think's in the middle that the Giants should be comfortable with and that Dexter would be comfortable with. I don't think Dexter, I don't know him. I'm not in those rooms, so I have no idea. But I don't think he's saying, I want $35 million and the highest paid defensive tackle or else I want out. I don't think that's it. I think there is something in between. Are the Giants willing to pay that price? A lot of these teams, Matt, you can speak to this, are stubborn as hell. We got you for 2 more years, buddy. Pack it. We're not going to do this. But they are the first at a moment's notice to say, ooh, he's owed a $5 million roster bonus tomorrow. Cut his ass on Christmas. Screw him and his family. So, the line doesn't go both ways for teams.
And by the way, part of this is that Lawrence does not have any more guaranteed money on these remaining 2 years. Yeah. So the Giants do have the hammer in terms of just going, okay, you're off the books, buddy. They could. And they won't have that liability.
They wouldn't behoove them to do that, though. It would not behoove them to just release Dexter Lawrence.
Not going to do that.
Right,
I'm just saying, to just address that minor point. But no, I mean, and I still think in my heart of hearts, and I'm going to go on the record and say this, okay?
Okay.
There's no question walking into today's show, this looks bad, okay?
Yeah,
this looks bad, okay? That you got a serious problem here that looked like a minor problem that has turned into a serious problem. But I would also say, over all the years that I've been around the NFL, covered the NFL, watched the NFL, this stuff happens. And then people do still come back to the table and they do settle their differences. And sometimes, dare I say, as we all know, with girlfriends / spouses / fiancés in this room, okay, that the fact of the matter is that you can have a drag them out, be really mad, walk out of the house, say, I'm never going back there. And then a day later, you're back there and you're negotiating and you're fixing everything that you did wrong. So all I'm saying is arguments happen, disagreements happen, and they don't always necessarily mean it's over. This is just one day here, okay, that all this is developed. I'm willing to give the Giants a couple more to see if they can get back to the table or not.
I would just
to your point, Lurch, I think that this is the this is the anti Jerry Jones, Micah Parsons tactic. And I do give the Giants and John Harbaugh and Joe Shane credit for this. They haven't called him Michael. They haven't called him Danny Lawrence in public. They haven't, misled, to the best of my knowledge, Dexter Lawrence into a meeting to talk about the end of the season, only for it to become a contract conversation without Dexter Lawrence's agent present. The Giants have gone about this the right way. They've spoken glowingly of him publicly. They haven't really divulged that much information in a press conference setting about the status of the negotiations. I fault the Giants nowhere in this in terms of how they've handled the negotiations, and that's why I think that, to your point, the book might not be closed and the door might still be open to these two sides striking a deal. And I think that the real deadline spur action, right? And I think that the real deadline is going to be the NFL draft. If this isn't resolved by the NFL draft, you could see a draft night trade involving Dexter Lawrence. And you have 8 days now. And I think that sometime over the next 8 days, if Dexter Lawrence has any desire at all to remain in New York, they'll find a way to work this out. They'll find a way to move the money around. But if the reports are true, and there are several teams interested, then the Giants owe it to themselves to shop him. They owe it to themselves to shop Dexter Lawrence as they negotiate with him, because you have to find a deal that you think is worth taking to make it worth your while to walk away from negotiations with Dexter Lawrence if it comes to it.
And BG, let me just go back to Mac's comment here and push back on you. I know you gave your quick answer. I didn't get a chance to respond to it, but you're out of your bleeping mind if you wouldn't take Dexter Lawrence and move down 3 spots. What is, in all honesty, like, okay, I understand that 2, you're getting the best defensive player off the board.
Or anything non-quarterback. I have the first pick. I can get the best player.
You know, it's likely going to be Arvell Reese or David Bailey. We know.
I don't know if you could say that, because if you traded up to 2, that wouldn't be the case. So I push back on your entire narrative of what you're saying for that. Well, yeah, but it's probably going to be this. But that's not the point. The point is, I could take anything I want as long as I don't take Ty Simpson.
I'll give you that. But you're getting a premier interior guy.
Am I?
And you're still getting a top 5 draft pick where you could pick the guy that you actually wanted to begin with. You know, like maybe if you wanted Sonny Styles at 2, you can still get him at 5. You know, if you wanted Jeremiah Love at 2, you can get him at 5. If you wanted, David Bailey, you could get him at 5. One of those players is probably going to be available. So you could still get a really great quality player at the top of the draft, and you get Sexy Dexy. I mean, why wouldn't you want to do that? If we reversed, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
No. Absolutely not. Because here's the thing. I'm not getting Sexy Dexy. I'm getting Fatty Dexy. I'm getting a guy who had half a sack last year. You're just
down on the guy is what you're saying. You're just down on the guy.
Well, of course. And that's the guy that's getting involved in this trade. He had half a sack last year, so production was down. There were multiple reports that said he was looking a little hefty. And I'm not talking about the trash bag commercial. So I'm hearing that. I'm seeing this. And then you're coming to me saying, well, if I don't get a first, then I'm just going to keep him on my roster. Right. That's what my daughter does. She does this new thing. If she doesn't like what I say, she crosses her arm and looks where it goes, I'm like, honey. She goes,
oh, you're in trouble.
And she gives me some of that. And then I try to counter it by going, to her, and then eventually turns into a funny thing and she starts laughing. But there's nothing funny about this. It's that, no, for your Dexter Lawrence sake, if I don't get a first, then I'm not getting it. Then you're not getting it from me, buddy. No.
You're the neutral guy. Would you make that trade if you were the number 2 pick team, regardless of who it is?
Yes. So because the people I talk to inside the league view Dexter Lawrence as a difference maker. And if you're going to, BG, you and I talked about this on your show on Sunday morning, that
what
if
show?
you're
Boy
looking...
Green Daily?
Boy Green Daily on Sunday morning. Yes, we spoke about this, that if you're Aaron Glenn entering year 2 and you're the Jets and you're looking to evaluate Aaron Glenn, you need to build up that defense to the point where it can come close to matching the talent that he had at his disposal in Detroit. And if you can take Dexter Lawrence and plug him into the middle, and you can go and you can draft whatever the edge rusher who's left over at 5, whether it's Reese, whether it's Bailey, whether you get the stand-up linebacker like Sonny Styles, you're adding 2 premium defensive players into that defense, and you're still picking at 16. And you're still picking at 16 where you can maybe get an Omar Cooper. Maybe you get a Jordan Tyson. You get a weapon for your next quarterback next year. So to me, I wouldn't love this trade from a Giants perspective because I just don't know what I'm going up there to get. There's not a tackle that I can, emphatically say he's a franchise tackle worth taking number 2, future Hall of Famer I can plant opposite Andrew Thomas. There isn't a cornerback who I can say I need to have at number 2. I don't know that I necessarily need Jeremiah Love. I certainly don't need Arvell Reese or Reuben Bain or Mansour. I don't need those guys at number 2, right? So if you look at it, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the Giants to go up to 2 in this particular draft.
And here's the thing, we're seeing it in the chat, so we can highlight a few comments here. First off, I see we have a Giants fan in the room, NYC_G. As Giants fans, I truly
such excitement, Boy Green. Yes, we have a Giants fan in the room.
Yeah, woohoo, Big Blue, which makes sense for the topic matter at hand here. As a Giants fan, he says, I truly think Dexter doesn't want to be here anymore. And again, if that's true, then you have to sort of unpack that for whatever it is. And I see, and I agree with James here that there is going to be teams interested in Dexter Lawrence, even if I'm not. I think there's other teams that are. Chargers, Bengals. Bengals make a ton of sense. It's this team that has everything seemingly. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all that fun stuff. But defense is like, yikes, especially losing Trey Hendrickson, their best defensive guy this offseason. So them trading something in the future like a 27 first or whatever it would be is interesting because they need help on defense. So let me throw that to you, Lurch. Okay? If you say, hey, it's got to be a first or else don't even call me. Don't even talk to me. So are you amenable to a 2026 first or a 2027 first? And do you have a preference of one of the two?
Well, I prefer now because you're
Okay.
losing a guy now, and the Giants are going to have to do something to replace him. But no, I'm good either way. I'm
Ooh,
good either way.
Matt's going the other way. I saw that look, Matt. Go ahead.
Matt can give his
I mean, you
opinion.
just talk to evaluators and everybody. I mean, I had a front office executive call this draft ho hum, not very good. And you talk to people about 2027, and it's loaded with, top quarterbacks, in which the Giants might not need a quarterback. But if they get a pick that winds up being in the top 5 or top 10 out of this trade, now you have some real leverage to acquire future draft capital next year. You're probably going to get a better overall player out of next year's draft. And look, you want to help yourself now. If you want to help yourself now and you're the Giants, you sign Dexter Lawrence to an extension and you keep him. Right? That's just what this comes down to, because otherwise you're talking about replacing him with a player who's not nearly as good out of this year's draft. You're probably going to earmark that pick for Caden McDonald or maybe taking a defensive tackle in the second round. To me, if I can get a 2027-1, sign me up. I'll drive Dexter and we'll stop at Popeyes. It doesn't matter,
Yeah, my thought here on this year, Matt, would be, especially for the Bengals who are picking number 10. I mean, if we're talking about Bengals first this year and Bengals second last year, now I'm picking also at number 10. And give me his name, Boy Green. He has the weird IOAN.
Vega Iwane?
Yeah, Iwane.
Vega Iwane.
Right? I love him.
Good player.
Okay. And so I could take him at 10 and I replace Dexter Lawrence with a cheaper version of Dexter Lawrence, and now I have control of that guy for 5 years, okay? And if he turns out to be the prospect that I think he can, now I have that piece, and I can still go about my business in other places. And I got a bonus second rounder next year as well. Like, I feel like I'm in good footing.
Whoa. You think you're getting the Quentin Williams deal, the same deal we got for a first and 2? I think not.
Well, that's what was being suggested in the comments. So I'm just responding to what the commenter was saying. Okay. The Giant fan commenter, you can bring him back up if you want there, was saying a first rounder and first rounder this year, second rounder next year.
Oh, I misunderstood.
Second rounder this year, first rounder next year. For either
I thought he was just throwing up assets on the table and saying it would be one of these things. See, that I misinterpreted from James.
No, so
I disagree with James. Right?
I'm down with that, man. Give me 2
I'm
picks.
sure you are.
Good. 2 picks. 2 picks sounds good. First and a second, one this year, one next year. I don't care which way. I'll take either one. I'm good. If this is really going to be a parting. I hope this is not going to be a parting, because I think Dexter Lawrence is an excellent player. I think he had a down year last year. I think the injury affected him. I think they had a bad coaching staff. I don't think they were on top of things. I think everything has changed in the last 6 months. I want to see how Dexter Lawrence operates in the new Giants order, world order here with John Harbaugh in charge. And if Dexter Lawrence goes back to what he was in 2024, I'm thrilled. Now I got Dexter Lawrence. I got a developing Abdul Carter. I've made another defensive draft pick in all likelihood at number 5 this year. I got another piece of the puzzle. Suddenly, hey, Giants, the 80s Giants defenses are starting to sound like we're back to the 80s again. That's what I'm looking for.
And I would just say this, because again, Lurch, you said it very bluntly, like, wow, this does not look good right now. And I would tell you, the first example that comes to my head of a different situation that did not look good, and everyone said, oh, we know where this is going, and it was fixed, is Jonathan Taylor with the Colts. He had a very tough situation with Jim Irsay, and Rappaport had a tweet that said, well, this is over. He is not coming back to the Colts. The impasse, all this other nonsense and noise. And guess what? Bing, boom, bam. Money solved all problems, apparently. They made up and kissed, and all of a sudden now they had this long-term deal together. So, and that got intense, and that got back and forth. And that, like, Jim Irsay, God rest his soul, had this, like, crazy quote, like, all of us can die tomorrow and the world will keep spinning. You're like, Jesus, Jim, good Lord have mercy. Like, I don't know why we have to go that far. Like, it just to show, like, and Jonathan Taylor took that a certain way of what he's supposed to mean to the organization. So yes, it looks dire right now for the Giants, but money could solve all problems. Is there a path though? And there is a timeline. To Matt's point, the draft is in 8 days away. So I figure if you're the Giants, Lurch, and to your point, with Harbaugh, you want to win now. You don't want to get worse as a football team.
No doubt.
If you trade Dexter Lawrence after the draft, you are getting worse. There is no team out there, and maybe I'll be wrong, that's going to give you a quality defensive tackle, which isn't as good as Dexter Lawrence, but they get Dexter Lawrence and they give you picks. That is very unlikely to happen. What you would get after the draft is a pick in 27, which doesn't help you. So you just got worse. Dexter Lawrence has you here. No Dexter Lawrence has you here. So if you're Harbaugh on everybody, there is this ticking timeline that if we're going to trade him, we better trade him somewhere in the next 8 days, or else we're going to be worse as a football team.
Well, when we talked last
and
week,
just imagine the scenario where Jeremiah Love slips to number 7, and you have the Washington Commanders, and you're sitting in a division where you're facing Saquon Barkley twice a year, you're facing Jeremiah Love twice a year, you're facing Dak Prescott twice a year, Jaden Daniels twice a year. If you can't work this out, then good luck. Good luck to the Giants. I mean, I still think that this has to get done at some point, right? I mean, the numbers can't be that far apart where you look at the Giants and you say, okay, I can't pay you $24.5 million. I can't pay you $25 million, but you trade him for a first-round pick to the Chargers in the 20s or to the Patriots at number 31. I just don't know that there's going to be this robust trade market because of the boxes that you have to check to make a deal work.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I said it last week when we talked, Matt, about I really thought that Harbaugh wouldn't want this black mark, on his resume here coming in, and that they gotta, he's got to show cooler heads can prevail here and we can get something done with a really important player. I mean, this is a position that the Giants pre-draft have already said we have a need here. We have a need in the interior defensive line. And now you're going to lose your best interior defensive lineman. Now it's not just a need, it's a giant, huge, massive hole. All right. And we're not using pick 5 on an interior defensive lineman. I don't care how good he is. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. We don't have anybody.
There isn't one worth that in this draft.
There isn't a transformative guy. So give me a break. And I agree. I don't think Harbaugh wants to be worse in positions this year. He's trying to get better in all the positions across the board. So this is a difficult one. Maybe they will get back to the table. And maybe they will get back to the table. It's a mess. It's a genuine mess. And it has gotten to be a mess very, very quickly. Less than a week. Unbelievable. Wow.
All right. Well, Matt, I plan on talking about several different things with you, but this is a full Dexter Lawrence conversation, which is totally fine. So, Matt, can you give some plugs for Between the Hash Marks again? We're 8 days away from the draft. I know you have your top 10 defensive prospects are out there. We didn't get a chance to dabble on that, but people, that's okay. It's a perfect opportunity with the direct link in our YouTube description down below for people to go to the Substack and read it themselves. Can you give a plug for what you have cooking here?
Yeah, go check out the big board. And it's my top 10 prospects on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL draft. And with a handful of prospects, there's a scouting thumbnail from an NFL executive, coach, or scout. Just make sure you read the Sonny Styles tidbit from an executive, because it might make you think about Sonny Styles as a player just a little bit differently. It kind of surprised me during our conversation. Coming on Friday, we'll have my weekly mailbag where you can submit your questions to me. I'll pose them to NFL coaches, scouts, executives, former players, get their answers to your question in the column on Friday. And then make sure you're signed up and subscribed for Monday. It's my one and only mock draft. It drops Monday morning. It's got insight from coaches and scouts around the league, people who have coached these guys in college. It's going to be insightful. I don't know that it's going to be accurate, but it's going to certainly be loaded with info. So the mock draft comes out on Monday. So make sure you check that out early next week.
All right, perfect. Matt. Thank you, my friend. Always good talking to you.
You got to check in with you next week before the draft.
Better times. We'll be talking draft next week. We're going to have picks on the board, and we're about to have picks on the board. And maybe is anybody going to make any trades? You think, Matt? Will there be any draft trades before we meet again next week? Will be a day before the draft. Will there be trades? I think there'll be any.
Maybe Dexter Lawrence is moved, but I think that if you're going to see trades happen, it's probably from pick 11 through the end of the first round. I just don't get a sense from people that I've spoken to that there's this groundswell to move up into the top 10 because there's not a quarterback and there just aren't that many difference-making players at the top of the board that teams are going to want to go and try to trade up to get.
All right, fair enough. Thanks, Matt.
You got it, boys. Have a great one.
All right. Enjoy the nice weather down there in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Man, with those birds chirping in the background. Holy crap.
Which I appreciated. Again, it was a nice, soft touch. It wasn't like I was at a zoo and all I was hearing is squawking like a bird cage. So it was nice.
Very masters-like, as they say. Very masters-like. All right, why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back. We'll dissect everything Matt had to say. We'll take a look at that Sonny Styles thing. I read his piece this morning, so I know exactly what he's talking about. We'll discuss and some of those other players on his list. Very, very interesting list. And Matt, one of the real benefits that he brings to our show as our NFL insider is he is very much plugged into a lot of front offices across the NFL and really talks to a lot of these people, the players, that are, and I'm talking about players, not the players on the field. I'm talking about the players in the front offices that, are wheeling and dealing and have these thoughts about players and personnel. And so it's always fascinating to hear that side. We spend so much time hearing what the fans think. It's nice to hear about what the decision makers are thinking about players and about things and about trades and about organizations and so on and so forth. So we'll get into that when we return. All right, quick break. We're back. More of the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. Don't forget to pop that like button. And if you're not already a subscriber, subscribe to our channel at MC Show Digital on YouTube. The link below us right there. We'll be right back.
Well, hello, how do you do? I got a feeling I'm falling for you. Well, hello, what do you say? I think we can make it a beautiful day. We're gonna make it a beautiful day.
All right, we are back. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. We are presented by Northeast Roofing Professionals, NERPCNY.com. The roofing professionals up here in Central New York. If you live in DeWitt and Fayetteville, they specialize in those areas. They may travel beyond that, but reach out to them and find out. Super good roofers, take care of business, and definitely this is the time of year. We're just getting into spring here. The weather's starting to look a little bit better here in Central New York. To schedule if you need a roof repair or if you want to replace your roof, get an estimate, find out how much it is. But these guys are the best in the biz. So go see our friends at Northeast Roofing Professionals, NERPCNY.com. And on the flower front, since we are brought to you by Floral Gardens today, Mother's Day is coming up. It's always in May.
When is it?
It's always in May, fellers, in case you don't know.
May. Okay, I don't know.
Fellas. Yeah, let me give you the exact date on Mother's Day. I don't have it flagged yet, but yes, Mother's Day is always in May, and Father's Day is always in June, boy, in case you didn't know. Easy to figure out when
May 10th. Okay.
It is. May 10th is Mother's Day, and I think Father's Day 21st. Yep, I remember that, the 21st, because I'm already
you should.
I'll put together some kind of plan with my son for Father's Day. So yes, that'll be the 21st Father's Day, May 10th for Mother's Day. So that's not far away. We're less than a month away from Mother's Day. So flowers always a great traditional thing to do. And all of the Allen Floral Group florists, including our friends today at the Floral Gardens, do specialty, customized things for you especially for these occasions. They'll do it anytime. But
Lawrence, that's what I wanted to say, actually.
Yeah.
Because sure, there's these events, and that's cool. Mother's Day, Father's Day, this day, that day. There are like 10-pole events, and it's great for our wonderful sponsors because like people probably rush to them on these dates. Like New Year's for a gym. They're like, all right, here's a flock of people. But what I did the other day was I just got flowers for no reason. I just got flowers for no reason in particular and just gave it to my fiance. And she loved the surprise element because I think some people, like on Mother's Day, they have their feet kicked up going, well, where's my flowers? Like, here we go. And that's fine. You got to check something off the bucket list, I guess. But the surprise flowers, I'm going to be honest, my fiance was over the moon that I just surprised her. I knocked on the door and then she opened and went, whoa. So see, that's another benefit of all our partnership here with the Allen Floral Group of they could hook you up there too.
And by the way, I found out, I just found this out the other day, Boy Green, you should know this.
Okay.
Most of the Allen Floral Groups, they have 5 stores in the greater CNY area.
Right.
One is out towards Utica and one is towards Seneca Falls. And there are 3 here, kind of in the Syracuse / suburbs area.
Yeah.
And I found out that they actually will deliver to Oswego. So if you ever
I didn't know that. I picked it up in person, but okay.
Apparently they will bring it right to your doorstep.
Cool.
I did order flowers from Allen Floral Group. I used Creative Florist, which is right in Liverpool on Route 57 here.
Great.
And they delivered a beautiful Valentine's bouquet that included roses and all kinds of other flowers as well. And it was nice. It really, sometimes flowers, especially when you get them at the grocery store or something, you put them in water and like 5 days later they're dying. You're like, wow, that was fast. But I think a lot of times when you deal with traditional florists, the quality of the flowers, how they take care.
Oh, what's the lifespan on those ones?
The flowers. I mean, those flowers were good for over 2 weeks. Really, and actually, really, really nice. Maybe closer to 3 weeks. And
really, wow.
She was still displaying them almost a month later until I was like, okay, honey, I think. Unfortunately, flowers in a vase do eventually die. It's time.
Oh, you're a guy that pushes. So if you start seeing them dying, you're like, hey, let's sort of get these out of here.
Yeah,
wow, I didn't know that about you.
Fresh flowers around the house, not not wilting flowers. But no, they had good longevity, as we say.
Okay, that's good to know.
So, and I think a lot of times that's the quality of the flowers the florists will buy. I think they're a little bit more,
and they take care of them.
The way they take care of them. The people that work in these florists are these guys are and gals are plant specialists. I mean, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They know how to take care of things.
Yeah.
So, and I would definitely say that about our friends at the Allen Floral Group. So if you're looking for flowers, a great place to go if you live here in the central New York area. All right. We're back.
Hey, real quick, just for earlier for our super chat. So Mac, is our leaderboard updated now, Lurch?
Oh, yes, I did. I updated it and I had it already scrolling, but I will put it back up there right now.
Okay, good.
Back for Life is, as they say, the tote board no longer heavy. Okay, the tote board is up to date. So you see Jamie the FedEx guy and Zay Engineer at the top with 10 raffle tickets. T-Town Jet closing in with 6. MFC with 3. Number 1 Austrian Jets fan and Mac for Life now with 2 apiece. And Big Al has 1. So there you go.
Great. Okay.
Tote board, baby. Want to get on the tote board? $3 super chat will get you a singular raffle ticket. If you every $3 incrementally, will get you another. If you are not a member and you become a member, automatically 2 raffle tickets at our lowest level, the 12th Manchild, which is $4.99 to join per month. And if you join higher levels of our membership, you can get even more. And the biggest way to get a big bomb, of raffle tickets and move right to the top of the tote board, you could do that right now if you wanted, is gift 5 or more memberships out there. And you immediately will get 20 raffle tickets. I am bonusing 20 raffle tickets for anybody who buys 5 or more
raffle tickets for
get to 5.
Raffle tickets for what, Lurch?
Oh, yes, of course. Gosh, thanks for telling me, Boy Green. All right, 2 items going up in we are a week away.
A week away. Yeah, it's next week, the 22nd.
For the draft. 2 really cool items, very kind of cool novelty niche items, but I love them. All right. First one is this Dan Aykroyd autographed harmonica. This is the case of the harmonica, right? Is a Sousa band harmonica. And then inside this little plastic case, nothing fancy about the case, but it does have a nice autograph on it, is the harmonica itself. There's the Sousa band harmonica. And on the other side, Dan Aykroyd autographed the harmonica as well. All right. In fact, that's a proper way to look at that autograph. Sorry about my light.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a hologram kind of thing. Okay, so you got that. That's going out the door. So very, very unique item. And you don't need a COA. I'll send you your COA. That's Dan actually autographing that harmonica. So there you go. That's your COA. And then also this lovely, lovely magazine that I have kept hermetically sealed. It is from the 2003 National Championship when Syracuse won. And that is, again, a very young Carmelo Anthony when Syracuse won the national championship. Is in beautiful condition. You can see no chips, no marks. This is something for a Syracuse sports fan or somebody that loves college basketball, for in all honesty, something maybe you want to get framed, maybe even get Melo to autograph this, and it would be a really cool item to put in a frame. But either way, as a matter of fact, our friend Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House, who joins us every Friday to talk SU basketball, has one of these framed.
Wow.
So get yours framed. Awesome thing that you could do, and a really, really nice kind of keepsake for the diehard NCAA basketball or Syracuse basketball in particular fans. So those are the 2 items. We will raffle them off a week from today. All right. So if you want to get in, this is the time to do it. You have a week to pile up some raffle tickets.
All right, beautiful. No, I just want to make sure everyone understood, because Mac said against Super Chats, if other people were on the fence about doing it, about what they could get. So again, the uniqueness is exactly what Lurch just said. It's the 22nd. It's Lurch's lucky number. The 22nd of every month is when these raffle giveaways happen, and then a new one is birthed. So there you have it.
Okay. All right. Let's finish up on Dexter, and then we can talk about some of these other players that Matt was talking about in his column, which I thought was pretty cool that we didn't have enough time to get to because we were too busy arguing and pontificating about Dexter. look, I mean, this is kind of a dark day today for Giant fans, if indeed this is the end of this relationship, because this is a player that less than a year ago we thought was the best interior defensive lineman in football. His stats showed it.
Sure.
You don't usually see big sack numbers from interior defensive linemen, but ask almost any quarterback in the league. I know Tom Brady said it for years, so I'll use him as the example. What is a quarterback's worst nightmare? Pressure coming from the inside. And these nose tackles / defensive inside guys putting pressure up the middle and forcing the quarterbacks where they don't want to be, which is out of that pocket and shifting and moving and getting themselves near those edge rushers who are so good at sometimes winning, especially when the quarterback is on the move. And so the Giants have a real weapon there. Now, albeit coming off of that year, Lawrence got an injury. Then he was late to camp, essentially, in terms of his participation, participated in a very limited way, was ready for the start of the season, played the whole season for the Giants. But the numbers went from, can you just get his sack numbers from 2024? But I think it was.
Yeah, it was 9 sacks.
9 or 9.5. I think maybe 9.5. It was close to 10 sacks, which is great for an interior defensive guy.
9.
9. Okay, so
9.
nine.
Come on, Lurch. Don't question me. I'm always right, Lurch. Come on, man.
Something and a half. I'm sorry. So 9 sacks. And he went from 9 sacks to half a sack. All right, which is
that's a significant drop off.
And some of the other numbers were down a bit as well. Some of the thought out there was that, having missed most of camp and kind of getting,
but he appeared in every game. He was in all 17 this past year. Yeah.
He's an Iron Man. I mean, he plays. And he is a big guy. Okay, he is a large man,
gargantuan, you could say.
Tall, wide,
girth,
name it. Strong. He's a very, very strong.
Yeah,
Holy crow! I'm sure he benches insane amounts of weight. No, he's a tough guy to move. All right, and before last year showed amazing athleticism in being able to beat guys despite being double and triple teamed. Now, PFF, we talked about this a little over a week ago, who keeps stats on all the linemen and the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen and really breaks down the film and gives you the little threads of like, okay, we don't really see these things in games, but these are things that we spend time measuring to rate people. And one of the things that came out was that Dexter Lawrence last year in that half sack season was the most double and triple teamed guy essentially in football on the defensive side of the ball. Okay. So this guy was getting plowed. He was getting hit from every side, so on and so forth. I mean, that'll knock your numbers down, especially when your edge
from
guys
9 to a half.
I'm just saying, okay, it'll knock your numbers down. Not that far, but it'll knock your numbers down. But you put it all in the blender and he is what he is, but he's still in his prime. The guy has not reached 30 years old yet. Okay. Right. And, I imagine Dexter, being in there for the Giants for the next 4 or 5 years at a minimum before all this came down. And suddenly he was so unhappy about where he stands in the pantheon of being paid for his position. And he does, absolutely positively, even off of that lousy year last year, deserves to be getting paid more than he is currently,
of course,
getting paid. Okay, or scheduled to be getting paid.
Yeah, let me see. I'll pull it up here. What is where does he stand?
You can back him out if he's not the top guy coming off that year. I don't think you can say he's the top guy coming off that year. Somebody else definitely had a better year that you have to say they're above him. But he's in the top 5, and he may even be in the top 2 or 3, in all honesty, even coming off that bad year. So, I mean, he should be making more money.
He is 12th on the highest paid defensive tackle list.
And he's not the 12th best guy. He's much better than that. Like I said, he's top 5 at worst, top 5. So, but the problem is if Dexter doesn't just want to be the 5th highest paid guy coming off that kind of, lackluster year and get more guaranteed money and get the old signing bonus, because the Giants will manipulate that contract to try to minimize the blow to the cap and all that kind of stuff. That's the way they do business these days, especially when it's someone that's getting paid significant money. He's going to get paid over $20 million a year for sure. All right, maybe closer to 30. So, but somewhere in that range. And the question is, maybe the Giants, and I would like to believe that they are, saying to Dexter, look, based on your production last year and where things stand, if you want to re-up now, we'll sit down and talk to you. But here's the range in which we're going to talk to you about, because this is what your production says you're worth right now. So do you want to just stick to your crappy deal that you're on right now? Show us this year with our new coach in place that you're what you were in 2024. And, and then we might be forced to pay you the highest of any guy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to wait a year to do that. And you got to prove it to us. And that includes, by the way, showing up and getting that tubby body over here for off-season workouts that are optional. I know, but that Giant players are currently in right now, getting themselves into football shape. And maybe that's something that Dexter needs to be doing. And maybe to a small degree, John Harbaugh and his hierarchy are a little annoyed by that. That Dexter coming off such a subpar year, being under contract, instead of showing up at OTAs and showing like, you guys ought to pay me because I'm a hard worker. He sits out of that and says, I'm not coming until you guys pay me. And maybe that's not a great look, dare I say, to a new coach.
Well, I think it goes both ways, which I guess is life, right? Everything leans a little this way. Last year, Dexter, as Matt Lombardo pointed out, Dexter Lawrence came to the Giants and said, hey, buddy, pay me. And they were like, dude, you have 3 years left on your deal, 1 more year than he has now. They said, 3, get out of here. No. And ultimately, they bent the knee a little bit, threw in a couple of incentives, and just sort of, grease the wheels a little. They didn't give him really what he wanted, but they didn't do nothing. They said, fine, here's a little something. Get the hell out of here. Like, all right. And then now we're back here. So I don't blame the Giants for 3 years left on the deal. Like, dude, get lost. Like, you signed this deal, and our bet worked. We bet that you were at this. And at the time, it was very nice. But we, the Giants, knew the market was about to explode. So we were proactive, and we hit it here. And now we're getting punished for being proactive of paying you then. You weren't complaining about the signing bonus you received then. You were complaining about that money then. You signed this deal. We didn't hold you at gunpoint. You signed this. So that's the complicated nature.
Which is, just to put it on the table, it was in 2020, May of 2023. Okay.
Yep.
So it was during the off season, right after the 2022 season, May of 2023. All right. And it was a 4-year, $90 million extension. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what he signed. He signed on for 4 more years and got nearly $100 million in the process.
Pretty good.
In his extension.
Yeah.
Right. And now, like you said, he's just getting into that contract extension part of it because he still had the early part of the contract. There was an extension, not a brand new contract. And now, like you said, 3 years still left on a 4-year extension. And he's talking renegotiation. They tell him to go pound sand essentially, or, well, we'll get to you later. And now he comes back this year and he's even more unhappy and saying, now I have 2 years left. Are we going to do this or not? And, it is kind of annoying. I mean, there's from a business standpoint, I hate to say it, it sucks to suck. But we see it every single year, Boy Green, okay? We see it every single year with quarterbacks. We see it every single year with the top-tier wide receivers. So you see it at pretty much every position. I don't even know why I'm even positionally putting it out there.
Right.
Oh, wow, Antonio Brown is the #1 paid receiver in the NFL. And then literally a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, one of the other top guys, signs his contract, and now Antonio's #2. And a couple months go by, and another guy signs, and Antonio's #3. And before you know it, he's 2 years into his 5-year or 4-year deal, and guess where he is? Right where Dexter Lawrence is, number 12, and loving every minute of it, or not. You know what I mean? This is the natural course of events. This is how things work. And then, again, you couple it up. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but you couple it up with the fact that he had a very mediocre season at best last year, a subpar season, at least statistically. And you're just like, why are we going to pay this guy as one of the top 2-3 guys in the league off of that? Really?
Are you saying, just, I want to clarify this. You said statistically he looks in that way. Did you not see a drop off? Like you're talking about as you were watching the games, you didn't see a drop off? Just the stats is showing it that way?
I would say I definitely saw a drop off in his play, but I think that there are contributing factors. Like that defense just played lousy outside of Burns. I mean, you tell me who in that defense played well last year. I don't think I can name you another guy. I mean, it was just terrible. Abdul Carter, way underperforming for what I thought he was going to be. Thibodeau, mediocrity at best.
I would assume Bobby Okereke didn't perform well because he got cut. So
I mean, that front 7 I thought was going to be a lot better, and in particular the front 4, and it just wasn't. And I was just like, wow. And then I just think that put a lot of pressure on Dexter. And like I said, PFF has the proofs in the pudding. They studied this stuff. The guy was triple teamed and double teamed more than any guy in football. I mean, that does affect your numbers. Now, it shouldn't bring you down from 9 to half. Okay, that's bad. All right. If you had 5 last year, then you'd be like, all right, maybe it is. The Giants had a bad defense, and, he was getting double and triple team more than anybody in football. Okay, all right, maybe. knock a few sacks off there. Sacks kind of can be interesting sometimes. I almost think sacks are a cheat code sometimes, Boy Green. I honestly think that pressures matter more, throw in tackles for loss. Like you got to look at those plays that may not result in a sack, but the quarterback's forced to throw the ball away on third down, or things like that happen that, moved him out and another guy got the sack. That's really Dexter comes up the middle, moves the guy out. Okay, maybe Abdul Carter gets a cheap sack. It was all Dexter. Carter was just there to make the tackle. Dexter forced the player to where Carter was to get the sack. So there were all kinds of things like that happen in football that we aren't charting and graphing.
Right.
But we should be to measure whether a guy is truly down. But it was a down year for him. I won't argue that. But I do think there were contributing factors.
Okay.
And I'm not like, like going into this year. I did not once this offseason go,
Is he not the same guy? You were not asking that.
I'm not. I honestly felt before any of this came onto the landscape at all that Dexter Lawrence was going to bounce back this year. Okay. With Harbaugh there, getting in shape, not having to deal with the injury leading into the season, getting himself hopefully into better shape, maybe dieting a little bit. He's a big dude. I want him to be big, but I don't want to be obese. So, so I want him to be fit for his size. So, with all that, the energy of a new coach, another likely defensive draft pick coming at number 5, that, it would be, that this would be an exciting year for him and a chance maybe for some of that pressure to come off of him. Maybe Abdul Carter starts to develop. Maybe we see better play out of some of the players that were underperforming. Maybe there's a couple of ads that the Giants make here that make that defense a little bit stronger. So I saw a positive year coming for Dexter before all this came to pass.
Well, Lurch, I have one bit of pushback I want to say. You say you want to see Dexter Lawrence get in shape. You could argue a circle is a shape. So,
I suppose it is. I suppose it is.
Factor that in. Yeah.
But it's funny. I was pulling some images this morning. We were working up some graphics for the podcast this morning. And, I was looking through images on the internet of some good images of Dexter. And it was interesting as I was looking at some images where I was finding some images where Dexter was a little bit, dare I say, a little bit more flat-bellied. Okay.
Oh,
and then I was seeing images from last year where that belly was protruding, several inches out. I mean, he's always been a big girthy guy, so he's not a slim guy by any means, and he wouldn't be playing that position if he was slim. That's not what you want.
Well, of course not.
But, you got a little extra spare tire around the middle that's slowing you down, and you don't quite have the explosion. You don't quite have the, the athleticism that he came into the league with. That's a problem, especially as you get into your late 20s now and, not too far away from
it's a different level of evolution for your temple, the body you take care of when you're a young guppy and just going off of whatever. And then your body changes naturally and being ready for that. So,
I mean, I'm an old man, but I mean, I just can't pound McDonald's every day. I'd be a fat lard. I mean, I got to do things, I can't do that. And I got to mix in a salad, as Bud used to say, So, and it's a completely different thing at the NFL level. So I'm not trying to compare myself, but, fact of the matter is that, I saw some pictures of him a bit more in shape, and it looked like the range of those pictures was coming before last year, that those were pictures from 2024, 2023, and 2022. I was like, Dexter was, for Dexter, a little bit slimmer than the not so sexy Dexy was last year. So take it for what it is.
Yeah.
I still think there's hope, but I don't know. Ask me in a week whether I still think there's hope.
Okay, so what's your gut right now?
I might re-ask this question in a week, and I might be like, yeah, there's no hope. They're trading him.
Well, we may not have hope. He may be traded by the time we talk next. So let me ask you this. Your gut right now, based on all the information, right? There was the Joe Shane positivity train yesterday. There's been all the overflowing information, not just from one insider. I mean, this is local, national. There's a lot of hoopla over the last, let's call it 12 hours or so. Where do you stand right now? Is Dexter Lawrence a Giant in September? Or is he on another team based on what you know right now in this moment, how you feel?
I wish I knew a little bit more about how he felt.
Sure.
I'm sure he wants guaranteed money. I'm sure he wants, more money.
Yeah.
All those things. But, if you're asking me just what I think,
what you feel,
I have seen these things go sideways before. Okay. This has been a very, very short period of time here in which this has kind of blown up into a major issue.
Yeah, like 10 days or something. 14
I think it's just going to come down to this. I mean, number one, my answer to your question is I think he's a Giant come September. Okay.
Okay. There you go.
I'm still standing on that thing. But I will say this.
Okay.
I think what's going to happen here in the next few days to a week is the Giants are going to test the market. Okay.
They have to. They're not doing their job if they're not.
If they feel, okay, that they can get a nice return for Dexter and not have to pay him the money that he's likely going to get or is asking to get, then they will probably do something. But I'm telling you right now, I will be extremely upset as a Giants fan if that haul doesn't include a first-round pick either this year or next year, period. It has to.
What if it's a combo of
rounders? No, thank you.
If it's a second, fifth, and a player, that's still, you need it to say a first.
Well, depends on who the player is always, but
that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying other combinations. Don't come to me unless there's a first involved. If there's not, I don't want to hear it. Or are you open to creative other packages that could include multiple picks and maybe something else, but there's no first?
Yeah, I'm interested in other creative packages, but part of the package is going to have to be who's filling Dexter Lawrence's hole this season.
Which I'm not sure if there's a lot of those packages out there.
I agree.
That's why they're looking for Dexter Lawrence.
That's why I think it's going to be picks. And that's why I'm not settling for less than a first rounder as part of a package. It has to be a first rounder. And frankly, I don't even want the 31st pick in the draft or the 32nd pick in the draft. I want to try and deal with a team that at least is in the middle of the first round, preferably.
Like if I'm the Bengals,
between those guys.
I'm not giving up 10th overall for Dexter.
No, that seems like a lot.
That seems rich. I saw James earlier who brought it up as a possibility or something. Like the Chargers, they're like in the 20s or at like 22 or something. I don't have it off the top of my head. Like that seems more appropriate. But I'm sure for you want it higher. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Well, like I said, I'd like to use that pick if it were a this year pick. I'd like to use that pick on the Penn State kid. That's what I want. I'm going to replace Dexter with the Penn State kid, and
you have to trade up or something because he's probably going to be a top 15 pick or so.
That's what they're saying in the 15. So if it were the Bengals, we're getting him.
Sure. If it was the Bengals,
10. If we had 10, I almost think it's a lock that if we wanted him, we could get him.
You could probably get Caleb Downs with 10. Who knows? So
that's true also. But I think I'm looking to replace Lawrence with that pick. I'm just thinking about,
Well, Vega, just so you know, is a guard. He's not a defensive lineman.
Oh, he's an offensive tackle.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, Vega's a guard.
Who's the top DT then? And he must not be the guy.
It's very in conflict. There's two guys, but neither of them are really considered first round picks. It's Caden McDonald out of Ohio State,
okay.
And then it's Caleb Banks out of Florida. Those are the two.
Okay. Yep. You're right. The Giants also have that guard issue, so that's why I was thinking about Vega.
Oh yeah, Vega. Yeah, I was so confused earlier, so now I
want to replace Lawrence. I mean, I'd love to use that pick to get a cheaper version of Lawrence and a guy that I can develop and it's a plug, he's a plug and play this year
good,
and then continues, are either one of those two guys that are projected late first round, early second, worthy. Oh boy.
Caleb Banks has broken bones in his foot
That doesn't sound
4
good.
different times. So that's concerning. And Caden is interesting, but he's a borderline first round pick. So
what you could do. Okay. Alternate plan here. Sorry for the screw up there.
No,
alternate plan here is that what I could do then under the parameters in which you're saying to me is I could still get my Lawrence replacement theoretically here
at 35 or whatever.
I'll use my second round pick to take hopefully one of those two guys,
which I would imagine are both on the board.
Yeah. And then I'll take Vega to fill my guard spots. And I don't have to sign Van Roten to worry about any of that. Everybody else becomes a backup, and that guy's my starter.
Okay.
Right? And then I still have my number 5 pick to go play in the sandbox. Maybe I'm going to go get myself a running back, or maybe I'm going to go get myself a safety, or maybe I'm going to go get myself a linebacker. Maybe I'm going to get myself some other nice toy to play with. So, the toys are still plentiful here if the Giants could do that. But I want that pick, in the first round to get a meaningful starter. Dexter Lawrence is a starting player. He starts every game. Even when he's fat, he starts, okay? Even when he's hurt, he plays. I want a guy that's going to be out there for 17. So that's what I'm looking for. Going to get rid of him. We got to get that back somehow, some way, in some form. All right? That's the way I'm thinking about it.
Let's get some plugs in here. Tonight, we'll have Survivor. We're recapping episode 8 this evening. The show is 90 minutes. It's the CBS reality show or Paramount Plus, whichever you prefer to watch the latest episode of Survivor. So episode 8 is tonight. and thus shortly after that episode, we'll jump on. It's scheduled for 9:45, but we could jump on at 9:35, 9:40. We'll see what happens. We'll be there no later than 9:45. Myself, Manchild, and former Survivor Castaway Brett LaBelle from season 33, Millennials Gen X. So make sure you guys tune into that. We'll have Jake Asman in a little bit. We'll be recording that interview here very shortly, and that'll be uploaded to the channel. So we got some Jake Asman, we've got Survivor, we've got Anthony Prohaska tomorrow. I'm sure Anthony's going to bring it up. I invaded his podcast last night and jumped in and cracked a joke. He brought it on air and he laughed a little, but I think he's going to give me a lot of heat coming up on Thursday for that. So looking forward to that. And then Sean Devaney, NBA Plus. We had the NBA play-in tournament last night. Wow, what a thriller between the Hornets and Heat. That was crazy at the end. So we'll get some NBA, some Syracuse basketball. So plenty of stuff coming up this week, Butch. And obviously we already did Brandon London, Giants. That's up on the channel already.
Yeah, good week. Good week. Definitely a very, very good week. Just quickly, before we get out of here, a couple of news and notes I want to get to. All right, so you heard Matt mention that Sonny Styles take, all right, in his columm about the, what is
his
it? The
top 10 defensive prospects.
Top 10 defensive prospects.
His board, yeah.
He has Styles, by the way, at number 4 on his board. The top 3, just to let you know, are Arvell Reese, the edge of Ohio State, number 1. Caleb Downs, the safety at Ohio State, is number 2. David Bailey, the edge of Texas Tech, is 3, and Sonny Styles is 4. Here's that quote from an NFL personnel executive. Matt has labeled the quote because it's kind of a little bit on the QT, but he's been pretty specific here. NFC West personnel executive is the way that he labeled it. So it's somebody in the NFC West that he spoke to. And this is what that personnel executive said about Sonny Styles. He was developed and built for the NFL Combine, and he didn't disappoint. His anticipation and consistency leave you wanting a little more, though. So it's like this guy, they knew he was going to pop the scales and everything and be amazing because he is an incredible physical specimen that runs well and cuts well and jumps well and does all this stuff and can, pump those weights well. But when I watch him on the football field, I see a guy that doesn't anticipate well. I see a guy that doesn't, jump to the ball, is not always at the play, that, not always at the moment when he should be at the play, that kind of stuff, that's that football instinct thing that the great ones have. So that's that player's take on it. By the way, Matt followed it up with his,
exactly right. He was in a player.
This is what he said. Matt was very, very high on Styles. So this again is a player, personnel executive's thoughts on Styles. Matt's thoughts were the most athletically gifted prospect in this entire draft class. Styles is the equivalent of a wrecking ball tethered to the back of a fighter jet. On tape, Styles' closing speed on the football stops you in your tracks, but so too does his physicality when he arrives at the ball carrier. Styles is outstanding in coverage, not just good, outstanding in coverage, with excellent instincts that seem to always have him around the football, which gave him the chance to seamlessly step into the role of quarterback of the defense at the next, or will allow him to seamlessly step into the role of quarterback of the defense at the next level. Last season, he held opposing quarterbacks to just 75.8 passer rating when targeting him, and that was before he showed up at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis and ran the 40-yard dash in an insanely fast 4.46 seconds at 6'5", 244 pounds. Yowza.
Again, I would
draft Sonny Styles. I don't. That's based on Matt's assessment. I'm drafted Sonny Styles. I don't care what the NFL executive says.
Yeah, right. With all due respect to the NFL executive, was he made for the Combine? Sure. 6'5", 244 pounds. He's athletic as all can be. So he was always going to perform very well there. But to question the anticipation, stuff like that, he's a former safety. He transitioned in the middle of his collegiate career from safety to linebacker. Right. So he's obviously not a finished product. And that's sort of what you're investing in. He's here and you hope he can get here. This here is pretty cool. That's a fun place to be, but you're projecting him to be so much more. So that's where I would throw the challenge flag, or I would ask, where's the rest of the quote? Because that has to be sort of understood as proper context here. He came in as a safety. He was a safety at Ohio State. Then they asked him to play linebacker, and they asked him to do a lot of different stuff. So that doesn't scare me off about Sonny Styles at all. I love Sonny.
And I'll give you a great comparable on this, Boy Green. This one hits home when you talk about that transition from safety to linebacker.
Yeah.
Right here in Syracuse, we had a player by the name of Keith Bullock.
Oh,
Okay.
I love Keith.
Keith
Yeah,
Bullock, you know very well who he is. He had a very,
course.
very esteemed NFL
Long career.
mostly with
Yeah.
the Titans, I think. Did he play
Tennessee.
anywhere else?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
he played
Mhm.
mostly for the Titans. Keith Bullock from New City, New York. All
There
right,
you go.
upstate New York. Keith Bullock was a safety when he started.
I did
at
not know
safety.
that. Yeah.
And he transitioned to linebacker. And I'm going to say it was either one, could have been 2 full seasons. It might have only been
Let me
one
see
full
if I
season.
can find that.
Might be 2 full seasons. But Keith Bullock did, started at safety and then moved to linebacker. And I don't remember where he got drafted in the NFL draft. I think it was in the first 3 rounds.
I thought he was a first-round pick. Let me go back and check, I guess.
I'm trying to remember, my
My
mind's
gut tells me he was a first-round pick, but let me see.
But
Yeah,
Bullock
he was the 30th overall pick, first rounder.
End of the first round. So, and Bullock was tremendous in the NFL. Okay.
Did
And
you know he played for the Giants for a year?
yes, I do. I do remember that.
That was the last
yes.
year of his career. There you go. Random
At the very end when he was kind of washed up, he played for the Giants. Yes. Wasn't very memorable, but yes, I do remember seeing him in a Giant uniform and going, oh, that's not the Keith Bullock.
See, that's a jersey you should have. Why would you not have a Keith Bullock Giants jersey?
True.
I'm sure that's not expensive. You could probably find it, and it's a cool. How many other people have a Keith Bullock Giants jersey? And it has a Syracuse tip of the cap to your previous life. So I don't know.
It's true,
Cool
boy.
one to
You
get.
like those oddities, I
do. I think
you
it's
like to have those
fascinating.
players who are no longer on the team and you still have the
Yes.
jersey for some reason. I don't know. You
That's
got some
it.
sentimentality. It really angers me when I buy a jersey and then a guy leaves. Like a couple of years ago, I decided to invest in a Saquon Barkley jersey, and I'm not a big jersey buyer like you are.
Yeah.
And then like 2 years go by, and I'm like, great, not wearing this thing out in public now. He plays for the bleeping Eagles.
Well, that's true. That one's a little difficult to unpack. Yeah. That's
But the only thing you'll ever see Barkley is maybe hanging on that thing behind me right there. That's it. Once in a while, maybe.
Right.
Maybe. If I'm in the mood,
Well, to your point, there is a long lineage of these safeties, linebackers. One in the NFL right now is the first or second highest paid linebacker in football. It's Fred Warner. He was the safety in college, and he became a linebacker at the NFL level. So it can happen, man. It can happen.
There's some similarities in those two positions. Safety is, the deepest guy essentially typically in the defense at the third level, but safeties do come up and stop the run. Safeties blitz
they can
from
play in
time
the
to time.
box. Oh, yeah,
Safeties play in the box a lot of times when they know a team is going to run and they're tackling and running down tacklers and running down running backs, I should say, just like linebackers do. So they have those similar kind of instincts of attack, downhill, running downhill towards the offensive players. And obviously that's what linebackers do. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that's fascinating, and I agree. But I mean, Styles, when a guy puts up those kind of freakish numbers, you could tell. I mean, you could count on probably one hand how many guys could put up those kind of numbers. Period. Okay, and for his size to be able to do what he does.
Yeah.
You have to, as an NFL coach, even if you looked at some of his game film and said, boy, he didn't really anticipate that well. Boy, he didn't react the way to that. I would still say, like, well, let's just teach him that stuff. Because the guy runs like, like a wide receiver. He hits like a cannonball, like, who cares? Let's teach him better instincts. Let's get him in the right position to make plays. Let's make sure we play him in the right position on the field. Let's coach him up there, I say, because he's an athletic freak. And when you can coach up athletic freaks, they can turn into, Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
So that's why, Styles is so enticing. It's, those combine numbers do mean something. They do say something. And he's just not like a receiver who didn't catch anything in college and now he runs an incredible 40 and you're like, whoa, that guy's a blazer. If we could just teach him to catch the ball. That's a little different. This guy was a very good player in college. Okay. And he's got freakish numbers and now he's getting ready to adapt to the next level where he could take those freakish numbers and go to town on people. People have trouble stopping him rather than the other way around. So I don't know. It's just kind of a cool thing. So Styles is a really interesting guy. And then just quickly, the rest of the guys on Matt's list. So he had Styles at 4. Sure. He had I'm starting more and more to like Akeem Messidor, the edge from Miami.
He's the other guy, opposite of Ruben Bain.
Buzz on him. It's him and Bain. Those two guys. He doesn't have a quote on Messidor, but he thinks he's going to go a spot or two higher than people might expect. It's kind of Matt's take on it. And then right behind him, he has Ruben Bain at 6. All right. An NFC defensive line coach said about Bain is a stud, one of the best players in this draft. Okay. There you go. Some good. Then you got Mansour Delane, the corner at 7. All right. Who I think the Giants is the biggest need. Emmanuel McNeil Warren has moved up a bit on Matt's board, the safety from Toledo at number 8. So he likes McNeil Warren. Then he's got Jermod McCoy, the cornerback from Tennessee. And then finally rounds it out with Dylan Thieneman, the safety from Oregon. So he's got, again, not everybody has McNeil Warren in front of Thieneman, but Matt does.
Daniel Jeremiah certainly does. He has him as a top 15 player overall in this draft, regardless of position. So he's a little more polarizing. Some people have him in the second round. It sort of depends. He's a lanky kid out of Toledo.
Here's a good one here. It's a good one for you, Boy Green.
Okay.
Sherwood was a safety, and now he's on the island of misfit toys. That's coming in from.
It is true. Yeah, Jamian Sherwood was a 5th-round draft choice out of Auburn. The Jets drafted him. He played safety in college. They immediately transitioned him to linebacker, and it was choppy waters for the young man. He blew out his Achilles. He was a special teamer, and really, he got lucky. So when you were drafted outside of the first round, he signed a 4-year standard contract. He was in the final year of his deal. He was buried on the bench. He was not going to see the starting lineup. So who knows what his career is if that rookie contract plays out. Does he sign with the Jets? Does he disappear? Is he bagging groceries? Like, what happens? CJ Mosley gets hurt in week 2 of that final rookie year season that he had. So he's forced to be the new guy, and he delivers a career year and gets paid 3 years, $45 million. So, like, you know, the fine line is this. So many people never get an opportunity. So to Sharon's point here, Jamian got that chance, got paid handsomely, and unfortunately was terrible last year. So now he's still currently on the roster. He's in the middle of this big money contract. He is an island of misfit toys right now. I don't know if he fits on the Jets or does he get traded at some point to Tennessee to reunite him with Saleh or what happens, but he is an island of misfit toys. But that's part of the problem, right? Is that when you have someone who shifts and they look good in one scheme, the other scheme they don't, and then what do? Push him back to safety, keep him at linebacker? Do you flex into a different linebacker shot? Is he, instead of playing the Mike, does he play the Sam or the Will? Like, man, there's a lot of different angles for Sherwood, but it is funny and sad. But yes, Sharon, he is on the island of misfit toys. A lot of overpaid Jets over the years.
And going back quickly to Lawrence, there have been some rumors out there about Reeder coming to the Giants. And James says Reeder will be a Giant day after draft. Dexter gone. So how does that all work for the Giants?
So this will be a competition, which apparently has been happening all offseason between the Ravens and the Giants, the Harbaugh Wars. So the Ravens met with DJ Reeder first. He's a veteran defensive tackle, for those who don't know. He met with the Baltimore Ravens and visited them, but didn't sign. And a lot of people speculated, oh, I see. The Ravens are sort of working out all the details and say, hey, after the draft, we'll revisit this and basically wink, wink, potentially sign you, because after the draft, the compensatory pick formula no longer counts. And so we could do a whole podcast on comp formula. What does all that mean? But essentially, it's the players you lose in free agency versus the players you gain. And then you weigh those equations together. And if you lost more than you gained, you could get comp picks in the following year's draft. If you sign more than you gained, then you get nothing. You get nothing. You lose, sir. Good day. So that's sort of the balance. But once you get past the draft, the comp pick formula doesn't matter anymore. So you can sign as many people as you want. It's not going to affect it. So the Ravens met with DJ Reeder, and everyone said, oh, he's going to be there. And then Reeder just met with the Giants. You're like, wait a second. Who is he now going to potentially sign with after the draft? And now we have this potential battle. And again, what does it mean? Which I asked, who did we have? Oh, Brandon London. Well, I don't think I got this into with Brandon London. I probably asked you the other day for our Giants interview. I don't think we had a chance to ask him, but they visit with DJ Reeder. Is this hey, we need a guy just in case Dexter Lawrence goes crazy, we trade him? Or is it, hey, DJ Reeder and Dexter Lawrence could work together, because you mentioned the whole weakness versus, how big of a void it is at defensive tackle. And maybe that's more of the conversation. So to me, I think it is insurance, to be honest with you. I think if you have Reeder and Dexter Lawrence together, God bless America, that's great. But I think it's to make sure you guys have somebody, because defensive tackle is a big need for everybody, but there's not a lot available. We just talked about the draft, and free agency stunk at defensive tackle. So there's not a lot of great solutions.
Yeah, it always seems to be one of those tough positions to fill, to get really, really good guys in those places. And yet those run stuffing guys and those guys that can get pressure up the middle, they're invaluable when you have them, which is, again, why I value Lawrence so much. I mean, sometimes it doesn't feel like he's impacting the game very much, but I think we're naive to think that sometimes, because those guys take a pounding on it inside, but they take up other guys, and then other guys get credit who are getting sacks and tackles for losses. And a lot of it is brought on by the pressure that's being put on by the guy in the middle who, if he was single teamed, forget it. He'd be getting through there all the time and wreaking havoc on running backs and quarterbacks. So that's part of the deal. And I don't disagree with you. I mean, I almost think like, okay, I get this whole Reader thing. I think the Giants would love to have both of those guys. That's what I think they'd really love to do. But then is that even affordable with what everything is going on with Dexter? So I think that's part of like, the Giants are in this great position right now that a lot of teams in the NFL find themselves in. Okay. And the great position is they think they have a franchise quarterback and he's on his rookie contract. So if Jackson Dart, I don't know that it's really proven yet, but let's just go under the premise that Jackson Dart is the next guy. Okay. He's going to be a franchise guy for the Giants. Well, if that's the case, now's the time to build your roster. And then, how are you going to strategically do that? If you have to play an interior defensive lineman $30 million a year. Whoa, that takes a big chunk out of your maneuverability for skill positions and other more meaningful places on your roster that tend to be high-priced spots. That's the problem. That becomes an issue. So you got to watch who you pay. It's not always just the quality of the player. It also is what position the player plays and how much can you afford to pay for that position. I've said it for years. I will not pay a safety crazy money unless it's Ronnie Lott. Okay, unless it's Ed Reed. I'm not paying a guy. I'm not paying a safety. Like it's not important enough. He's way back there. Okay, I don't need anybody to defend anybody back there if I'm doing my job up here. All right, my edge rushers, my other skill players, my corners are covering guys. I'm not gonna worry about the safety. All right, they're just extras. Not to downgrade the safety. To laugh at all the safeties out there, but
yeah, sure.
It's just not a position. It's positionally valuable. It's not positionally valuable. So anyway, enough of that, but you get my point. Here was an interesting one that I saw, Boy Green, and I wanted to get to. Where is it? I should have flagged it. I'm sorry. Here it was right before Reader. Goodness gracious. Let me put my glasses on. I'm sorry. It's a hard time sometimes.
Okay.
It's a good question
that's right.
About what we should do here.
Okay.
Oh, here it is. Okay. Sorry. It was right there and I didn't see it. Okay. Whoops.
No. All right.
I didn't click it.
No, nothing's on the screen.
Okay, it was from Mark. Thank you, Mark. Sorry about that.
Mark Sacchetti. Yes.
Do you consider the economic reality of selecting a non-premium player, for example, the G-Men at pick 5? Okay, so this has come up a number of times about the, are you willing to pick a non-premium? When he says non-premium player, he's talking about non-premium position. Okay.
Yeah. Or it is a player at that, so it means what he says too. So a non-premium player would also be at their positions as well. So we're thinking like Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs.
Those are two perfect examples. You just start with those two guys. You've got Styles and Downs. All right. And so are you considering, the economic realities of selecting one of those players in those positions?
So what he's really saying for people that aren't in tune with this line of thinking is if you take, let's just say Caleb Downs is one of the examples. You're going to pay Caleb Downs. I don't have the money in front of me. I know what it is for the Jets. So it's a few
according to the draft chart, the 5th pick.
Yeah. So for instance, the Jets' number 2 overall pick is no matter what position it is, if it's a quarterback, if it's a punter, if it's a kicker, they're getting $50 million. That is, and essentially fully guaranteed. And again, it is regardless of position. It does not discriminate on position. If you're a quarterback, you get this. If you're a running back, you get this. No. Whatever position you are, and you're the number 2 overall pick, you get $50 million. So again, obviously, the further you go, 3rd, 4th, 5th, it's not 50, it's 48, 47, 46, 45, whatever. So whatever it is for the Giants, let's call it 45 million. Like I said, I don't have the contracts in front of me, what the slot is, but they are all slotted. So are you willing to take Caleb Downs, let's say at 5, and it's $45 million? Because what the economic game you're playing here is that if you're paying him, let's call it 45, we're talking about somewhere in the ballpark of, what would the math be on that? Like just 11.5 million or something per year. And then you look at who are the highest paid safeties in football. And you're like, holy crap, this 11.5 million puts him in the top 12 highest paid safeties in football. That means, in theory, for you to get your money back, Caleb has to be at least a top 12 safety immediately or better. Because if he's worse, then you're screwing up the economics because you're paying him to be a top 12 safety, even if that's not a really fair comparison. Like, I don't draft the safety go, boom, he has to be top 12 in his position or it sucks. But like, that's what you're sort of doing at these non-premium positions. If you take a quarterback, 4 years, $50 million. Again, back to my Jets reference. Like 4 years, $50 million. Quarterbacks are making more than that per year. Dak Prescott's making $60 million per year. So if you get quarterback right, you've won the jackpot. I've got great quarterback play at a cheap discount for 4 years. Woohoo! That's awesome. So that's the thing that Mark is sort of talking about here that's difficult. To me, and someone asked me this question on Boy Green Daily, and I didn't get to answer it, so I'll answer it here, is Paul, like, what do you think about sort of non-premium positions and making the pick? To me, while that has to be part of the ethos, like anything, like their character is on the sheet, their medicals is on the sheet, non-premium is on the sheet. There's a lot, it's a hard job to be a general manager. You have to factor in a lot of different variables and put it in the machine, beep, boop, bop, and see what's most important to you. It's part of the equation. But to me, like, you pick good players. I want to pick Sonny Styles because he's awesome. Okay, he's a linebacker. I'll worry about that first world problem at the end of his contract. If I draft him and 5 years later, it's like, whoa, we got to pay him at the top of the market. That sounds like a good problem to me. That he played so well that now I have to consider paying him among the highest paid at his position. Phenomenal. Sounds like a great draft pick, and sounds like I'm still employed as a general manager. Right. So I think sometimes we can overcomplicate things and get too deep into the weeds and say and get too well, technically you have the premium and the position and this and this. Just select good football players, okay? And there's a lot of variables at stake.
I don't disagree, but again, we've mocked twice. We'll do one more mock on Monday. It'll be our final mock on this show before the NFL draft. So we'll see what we do. I because of what Mark is discussing here, plus also in the blender, because of what I believe the Giants' greatest need, its greatest singular need to be, before all this Lawrence stuff happened. My take would be to trade down. I don't think there's any chance that Mansour Delane is coming off in the top 5. Hey, stranger things.
I do not believe so. No,
but I don't believe he will. He may not even be off the board by the time you get to pick 9 or 10 or 11.
Well, that I don't know. The Chiefs have a massive need at corner, so I think once you go that far, it opens up. Yeah,
they're sitting at 9. So is there a way to trade down? And frankly, if you like both Delane and McCoy, then you could even trade down to 12 or something in those lines, get back even more compensation for your number 5 pick, get your corner, okay, who you expect to be a starter, and now have better resources. And by the way, corner is a premium position, and now you're drafting down at, let's just say it's 12. Okay, I don't even know who's at 12, but I'm just throwing out a random number.
The Cowboys.
Here. All right, so hate making trades with the Cowboys. We won't be trading with the Cowboys. Let's say it's 13. All right, okay. Whatever it is. Okay, right in that ballpark. The fact of the matter is that now we're getting a premium position a little bit lower in the first round, and suddenly that contract is much more reasonable, and it's a premium position contract. So that's my take, Mark. My take is trade down, get the corner of your dreams. That's what I would love for the Giants to do. But those things aren't always so realistic. Who's the trade partner? What does pick 5 mean? If Love's still on the board at 5, there may be some takers. The Commanders want him pretty bad, but they're at a lack of draft picks, so we got a problem there. You probably have to be something next year in all likelihood.
And it's a divisional opponent.
And it's a divisional rival, right? But are there other teams that are salivating at Love and he's still sitting on the board at 5? Are there other teams that are salivating because David Bailey, I don't know, is on the board at 5? I don't think he will be. Who would be another prospect? Is there somebody even more in love with Styles than the Giants are and would want to come all the way up to 5 and get him?
One team we're hearing is the Cowboys apparently want to get ahead of the Giants because they know the Giants want, this is all rumors, that they know that the Giants want Jeremiah Love or Sonny Styles, and they want to block the Giants from getting those guys so they could get that guy. So there's rumors that they would trade up anywhere inside the top 4 to block the Giants.
Yeah. And part of the reason, to be honest with you, where I would be, if he were still on the board, it would be extremely difficult if I were the Giants to pass on this player, is because of what's behind us. All right. And that player is Jeremiah Love, who I happen to love, first of all. But secondly, I know Washington's going to pick him at 7. If he's on the board at 7, Washington's picking him. Okay. They need a running back, and he would fulfill all their dreams. And now we got to face him. You heard Matt talk about, we'd be facing Saquon Barkley and Jeremiah Love 4 times a year. I mean, I don't want that as a defense. We're still trying to figure out our defensive pieces, and then we're going to face those two running backs on top of all the other weapons those teams have. I don't want that to happen. So part of me, in all honesty, sitting at 5, if Love were still on the board, part of the reason of that pick, aside from that I love the player, is that I would love for him not to be on Washington. So I'm taking him so that Washington doesn't walk away with Jeremiah Love at 7. And then I feel like a guy that some people are rating as the most talented player in this draft, they are getting him at 7. I mean, the Commanders will feel like they hit the lottery, for crying out loud, boy.
I love that. Great strategy. Block the other guy.
Block
Spite is a great reason to draft somebody. I like that.
It's the player too. It's not just spite.
I know, but that's
but this, look, there are rivalries in football, and there are organizations that are at each other's throats, and they don't want to help the other one ever. And if I can do something that'll irritate and annoy them and still be better off on my team, I'm going to do that. So. But Love's an interesting guy. He could go in a lot of spots in this draft. I
can't wait to see it live. I'll be there in Pittsburgh.
I can't wait to see it. All right, folks. We'll put a nice bow on this one. Go ahead, Boy Green. You got one more thing? Go ahead.
Yeah. This doesn't have to be a topic point, just to mention it, and we'll dive into it later this week. It's official. Ryan Blackwell has joined the Syracuse basketball coaching staff. The university just announced that earlier. Like I said, we can talk about that with Neil Adler, but I just saw it. Breaking news happened. Okay. So Ryan Blackwell.
I talked about it with Bud on the Brunch with Bud.
Was it official then? Or just like the rumors?
No, I just said the rumors are that there's one more spot, and it's probably going to be him. But Syracuse has been in this modus operandi of we're not announcing anything until we go through the whole human resources thing.
Smart.
The class
who
clear.
Knows what's going to happen? Yeah.
Right. So. I mean, nowadays, in all honesty, you'd think, you just hire people like background checks and all just making sure.
Who knows what can come through?
That person fits all the criteria. This is to an extent a university hire, and so they gotta cross their T's and dot their I's. So I don't mind waiting. What's the big deal? We're we're a mile from basketball season starting from.
Yeah, right. So no, it's no big deal at all. So shout out to Ryan. It made a ton of sense, and he comes home, and that's beautiful. But no, we've got Jake Asman coming up, which is great. So we'll have that interview out here shortly. That's pre-recorded, folks. That won't be live, so you guys will be able to see that for all the Jet fans in our audience. And then Survivor tonight. That's at 9:45. That link is already up on YouTube, so you guys can already go over there and like that video. You can set. It'll say, "Hey, do you want us to remind you when this goes live?" Hit yes, or hit the bell notification here on the YouTube channel. Again, that is youtube.com/ at MC Show Digital. Set notifications to on, and every time we post a video, you'll get an alert for it.
Fantastic. And yeah, if you do join us for the live show tonight for Survivor, we had a great group of people last week. Plenty of people in the comments asking Brett questions, offering their opinions. So we want you to highly interact with that. That is a direct, call it a post-game show, a post-show show. It's right after the show. We call it the recap show, but it's right after the show.
Supposed to involve fans, right?
Yeah. We want you guys to ask questions. Say, I hate this. I can't stand this. Manchild, you're an
idiot.
Boy Green, what the hell are you talking about? I couldn't disagree with you more. We want to have the dialogue, dare I say, because this is a fun thing that we cover. We've done it for a lot of years, and now we've brought it over to the digital world. We're lucky to have Brett LaBelle continue to do this with us. He's done it with us for in the neighborhood of 10 years. That's like 20 Survivor seasons almost, somewhere in that neighborhood that Brett's been doing this with us. And he's great giving of his time. I don't know what's going on with him yet. He said he's going to be on the road this week, so we may have him at some party or something.
Right. Oh, yes. It's the Bryson Wendell party. They do Survivor parties. So again, this just goes to show you how this is blown up, that people like rent out restaurants and viewing centers and they party it up with drinks and food. I've never been to one of these, but it sounds like a time and a half. And so Brett's, that'll be the thing we have to keep an eye out for Brett tonight, because I have not heard from him. So he said he would have reached out if he needed a replacement. So no replacement apparently. So he will be on in some form or fashion this evening.
So I guess he's figuring it out. Have cell phone will travel. Brett will be on some street in Boston,
which was cool. That's how we saw Pizza Guy. Oh yeah, that's how we saw Justin Piappi. Yeah,
every time he's like out on the streets, people recognize him, and sometimes it's like Survivor people coming in and out of the party.
There's been Big Brother people.
Sometimes just random people on the street. He's hilarious, and if he spots people, he like runs over to them and gets a quick interview. Right, we got a quick interview with Wendell one time as he was coming.
Yes, Wendell, that's true. Bryce, Bryce is there. Justin Piappi. Yep.
So yeah, you never know what's gonna pop in.
That's
Dare I
true.
say, when Brett is on the street, and it looks like he probably will be for tonight's recap show. So again, right around 9:35, 9:40, usually we hit the air, or just shortly after the show finishes up. Once Brett joins us and we get all organized. So we'll see you tonight for that, folks. Thanks again so much for commenting today. For any of the memberships, any of the clicks.
Thank you,
of
Mac, for the
subscribe
super
button.
chat.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks for the super chat, Mac. And again, raffle going on for another week. So probably another opportunity or two to get in on the raffle before we pick our winner. Again, a Dan Aykroyd autographed harmonica and case, and a Carmelo Anthony Sports Illustrated 2003 cover/magazine that you can frame. Lovely, lovely, lovely condition. All right, folks, we will see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Check us out tonight for Survivor. Peace out.